I say this all the time. Penn State is like completely fine with being like above average, which is cool. Like good, but like they're not like serious about like winning championships. Like that's not Penn State football. It's like I want to close out by talking about some college football. I saw somebody today. First off, listen, I'm not coming at you. Like Penn State fans sometimes are so delusional. It's insane.
I know.
I saw somebody today under one of the state media posts be like, offense is having fun. Defense is playing well. Drew Allar's a Heisman quarterback. Like, I was like, Drew Allar's a Heisman quarterback.
No, he's not. Who said this?
Some dude, obviously. It's like some old dude that loves Penn State, obviously. I guess what I wanted to get, because we haven't talked about it like literally at all, is when I watched the Patriots, not the Patriots, when I watched when I watched Penn State, they remind me of like, honestly, like kind of like the Steelers almost, or like a team like
an old school football team with like a couple wrinkles of new flares on offense.
Yeah, and it seems like they always start off slow. They always seem disjointed. They never are like that. Their wins aren't ever like as convicting as they should be
against better teams. Like against
lower teams, even. Like, I don't think that they ever beat, like, I mean, they were 17.5-point favorites against Illinois, and Illinois shot themselves in the foot with the pick six at the end. Obviously, made the score a little bit further away than what it should have been. They didn't cover that 17.5 points. They obviously almost lost to Kent State. Like, just some.
No, that was Bowling Green.
Bowling Green. I just want to hear some, like, your opinion. Like, obviously, first off, Abdul Carter's really good at football. Like, newsflash, their defense is really good.
Always is.
And obviously they have two really great running backs. But when I watch Drew Allar, I don't see it. And I don't know if I'm a hater or I'm wrong. And I'm open to both of those things. But when I hear like I see like Hackenberg being like, oh, that first throw that he made against Illinois last week, like, I knew he was going to cook. And I'm like, well, Drew Allar didn't cook the entire game. Like, he makes a few good throws, but like, I don't see it with him the way that he gets hyped up amongst the Penn State media.
Yeah, I mean, you said Christian Hackenberg. I think Drew Allar and Christian Hackenberg are the same player.
Wow.
They both came out of high school very high, highly ranked recruits. Like, they both have like all of the physical tools to play in the NFL. Both big guys, both like 6'4", both had really strong arms. I think Drew probably moves a little bit better than Christian Hackenberg did, but like, they look to me as the same football player at Penn State. They both show flashes of really, really high level throws, but can be inconsistent at times. Drew Allar's not a Heisman Trophy quarterback. I think he can be good in the NFL. I think he has the tools to do so. I think he needs to develop a lot more still. But until I see something else from Penn State that tells me otherwise, i.e., they end up beating an Ohio State, or say they go out there and they stomp on USC, like legitimately stomp on USC, which I don't think that happens either. It's going to be this. I can't flip my opinion on Penn State from this is the same old Penn State team as years past. I think their offense is better and has looked better than last year. I think Drew Allar looks better than he did last year. He looks more comfortable, but I still think he's like a year away from, if he were to stay, I would feel a lot better about Penn State being able to beat one of these bigger name teams down the road than I do this year. Ultimately, what it'll come down to is can he make a few big plays when he needs to and not turn the football over? Because I think the defense is legit, but in years past, we've seen the defense play really well, and then it gets to a point where there's just zero offensive production, and the defense ends up being out there for 45 minutes during a game. And that's not sustainable when you're playing up against an Ohio State team, when you're playing up against a former Michigan team, and you can't go out there and expect to win a football game like that. So until proven otherwise, I'm just going to enjoy the wins, but I can't sit here and say that I think they're going to go out there and beat Ohio State this year. I can't say that I think that they end up in a playoff game that they'll beat Alabama this year. I don't think they'd beat Georgia. I don't think they'd beat Oregon, and I don't think they'd beat Texas with Quinn Ewers, but those few teams are just like in a different class. Like I think outside of that group of like 6 teams, like Penn State's right there, but there's a distinct difference between those 6 teams and Penn State. And there has been. I mean, for the last outside of Texas, it's pretty much been those few teams that have been like the dominant forces in college football. Replace Clemson with Texas in years past, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I just think the Penn State media like legitimately just kind of like needs to be stopped. Like it's just like until like I say this all the time, Penn State is like completely fine with being like above average, which is cool. Like good, but like they're not like serious about like winning championships. Like that's not Penn State football. It's like winning the Big Ten, going and winning in college football, like a national championship. That's just like not winning the playoff. My bad. Like that's just like not what Penn State's about. And you know me, I love betting on college football. I literally bet on every game from 12 o'clock until fucking midnight. And Penn State is an auto fade every week. Like anytime, like it's like I saw that the line it got up to 18.5 one point against Illinois. That's an auto bet for me because Penn State, their games are just too close. The only thing that you have to pretty much worry about is like if their defense turns up and gets a turnover and they have a short field.
Correct.
But like other than that, like the games are going to be close. So I even think this week they have a long spread. I'm probably going to take the underdog.
Thing about like partially, I don't think Penn State will cross over into that threshold of the Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. I mean, shit. Even like, yeah, or like Oregon. I was going to say Tennessee, but they haven't gotten there yet. They were there like back in the day, but they haven't jumped there yet. But they're definitely trending in the right direction with this kid they have at quarterback. But I was going to say they won't get into that threshold until they start taking this NIL situation more seriously. The NIL money that's going into those teams that are above Penn State is just like absurd. Like I'm looking at the top 15.
What was the
NIL
excuse before NIL?
I don't have one. I'm just saying I don't have an excuse. They just weren't as good.
This is just on par. Like even I agree with you. They definitely should probably spend more money in NIL. My big concern is just like I just don't think James Franklin and whatever staff he ever has in there are great at developing quarterbacks to be the guy. And like I don't think that we'll ever like maybe we will, but I just like don't foresee like the hot like a Gillen Gabriel like being like I want to go and play in Happy Valley over playing like in Oregon. Like I just think that we both went to Penn State.
It's a tough sell.
We both went to Penn State.
It comes down to Penn State and Oregon.
It's great for what it is, but there's obviously other destinations in America that are a lot better than State College, Pennsylvania.
It's really tough to sell somebody going to Penn State versus going to Miami if they're both getting offered the same amount of money in NIL deal. There's not a single doubt in my mind. Or even like one of these other teams. Like I'm looking at Ole Miss. I mean, I know they just lost, but they're 6th in NIL. I mean,
they're not scared.
They're not scared at all. Florida State, they're a bunch of shitters, but
yeah, they suck.
Still, like Nebraska. Like Nebraska got Dylan Raiola, who is probably going to end up being one of the Patrick Mahomes.
All right, thank you.
They ended up getting him, and he's probably going to end up being the best quarterback, like better than any quarterback that Penn State has had since Darryl Clark.
No doubt. Like, no doubt. He's good. He's actually good. I hate him, but he's good.
Yeah.
Like he's really good. Like, there's really not much more to say about it. And it's crazy to think that, like, Penn State, like, Trace McSorley was their best QB, like, in the last 20 years. Like,
Trace
that's
McSorley
a problem.
and Sean Clifford.
That is a problem. Like, it's just crazy. So
they do a good job of churning offensive linemen into the league. They probably put an offensive lineman in the NFL every year. They put at least 2 to 3 defensive players in the NFL, at least 2 to 3 defensive guys in the NFL every year. They're going to have 2 running backs in the NFL this year.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy that they just can't have that same type of success at the quarterback position.
They're not about it. But
they're not.
Last thing.
They need to get Coach Contafio in there.
Coach Contafio and Andrew Ford and Adam Brenneman.
If you guys are listening, Coach Contafio, I know you are. We need those SVS camps. We need direct lines to Penn State.
I want to get your reaction to this. Is Jaylen Milroe will be the number 1 pick in this year's draft. And I listened to Russillo and McShay talk about this.
I heard this
the other day. And when they said it, it just made all the sense, like, in the entire world. Like, I think the case that was made was pretty much like, he's big, fast, strong. He does things on a football field that legitimately, like, no one else can do from an athleticism standpoint. He's fast as shit. He's strong. He's really fun to watch. And his inconsistencies is just like throwing the football, which is the most important part.
Damn, that's a really tough inconsistency.
But we literally watch this happen
yeah.
every single year at the quarterback position, where there's a guy who has all of the tools of like freak athleticism, and
Correct.
They are always on the top of everyone's board because he's going to go to the combine and be fast, jump out the gym, make crazy throws against air and shorts and a helmet, because anybody anybody can, but like when a hyper athlete does it, it looks way cooler. So,
like Anthony Richardson.
So I wanted to see I wanted to echo that because I'm going to stand with both of them in solidarity, and also claim that take of, I think Jaylen Milroe gets taken 1 overall, first quarterback off the board in this upcoming draft. And I wanted to, 1, get your reaction on that, and 2, what do you think of Jaylen Milroe?
I don't think that that's insane. I think the only way that he doesn't end up going number 1 is if the Patriots end up getting a number 1 pick, because I think they'll end up going offensive lineman.
Do you trade back? All right, we're talking
potentially.
Draft.
Potentially.
Now we're talking draft. My bad.
If there is a team that has the first overall pick that is looking to get a quarterback, I can totally see that happening.
Yeah.
For the reasons that you mentioned, where you go to the combine and he'll absolutely do numbers there. I think he's probably going to end up winning the Heisman this year if he continues playing the way that he does. So add that to his resume. He played in a national championship last year, and I think he's good enough. And I think we saw just how good this Alabama team is over the past weekend to say, oh yeah, they can win a national championship as well. And every NFL team thinks that they are the greatest at developing a quarterback. And even if there are things that he needs to work on, an NFL team will take a chance on him because of how electric he can be in these other areas. He's probably a thicker Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, literally.
And that's extremely tough to replicate. And that's extremely tough to find elsewhere, basically.
Bro, when he takes
I could see it. I could see it happening. I think like I said, I think he wins the Heisman. That just boosts his stock, and I think he's going to do a great job at the combine and test super well. So as long as he doesn't go out there and just completely crumble the rest of the college football season, I can totally see him getting picked number 1 overall.
Bro, some against Georgia this past week, the one play where he broke off down the sideline and legit took off running, I was like, oh my gosh, this dude's so fast. And obviously the 17-year-old wide receiver made the play at the end of the game, which was literally one of the craziest plays I've ever seen in my life. He's a baller.
Sick. That was sick.
But yeah, I just wanted to see what you thought about that, because I heard them talk about it and I was literally like, that is 150% going to be what happens this year. Because there's the guys at the top of the board. Some are good, but none of them are
none of them have that superstar.
Yeah,
to them. Carson Beck is up there, but he looked like shit. Shedeur Sanders is up there. I don't really I think Shedur's good, and I think he throws the football better than Jaylen Milroe, but I don't think he's anywhere close to athletic as he is. He also didn't have nearly as good of an offensive line. So I don't think we've fully seen the Shedeur Sanders potential. Drew Allar's up there, but he's not going to be anywhere. He's not going to be a top 15 pick. I don't know. I'm seeing he's on draft boards as one of the top quarterbacks coming out.
Man, listen. If Drew Allar declares, in my head, I mean, unless if he goes on an absolute tear for the rest of the season, but if he plays the way that he's been playing,
Quinn Ewers too. Sorry,
yeah, Quinn Ewers. If he plays the way that he's been playing this season, I feel like he should stay in school one more year.
I mean, I agree with you. He puts together good stats. If you look at his season in totality last year, he threw 2 interceptions, and I mean, on paper, that's phenomenal. But if you're watching him game to game, it's okay. And they could have just been the offense that they were running. And
they don't put him in situations to throw picks. They didn't
push the football down the field at all last year. And they're doing it more this year. But, and I expect him to throw probably more than 2 interceptions. But on paper, he'll put together a 3,000-yard passing season, 20 passing TDs, and probably less than 5 interceptions. And that's amazing on paper. And at his size and arm strength, that is what will get you drafted.
Weirdest thing ever, and I don't know why I think like this. If you ever have another quarterback coming into the game while you're playing quarterback for your team,
I hate it.
That's bad vibes. It's a bad sign. There's no reason any elite quarterback in college football is not ever having another quarterback
coming out of the field,
come in and run a zone read play or something like that. It's just and like I said, Drew Allar, when you're watching the games, there's times where you're just do they not trust him to throw the football here, or what's going on? So
Drew Allar is Jared Goff in the NFL. That's his ceiling.
I think
that's his best absolute. That's the absolute best player that Drew Allar could be in the NFL.
Okay. All right. Listen,
and I don't think that's a bad thing, but because I think Jared Goff is a good NFL quarterback, but that is everything goes right for Drew Allar from here on out, and you get Jared Goff.
Listen, I've been with Drew, good kid, nice guy. Not trying to roast him on a personal level, but
I don't think that's a bad thing to say that his absolute best is Jared Goff.
No, not at all. All right, well, hey, that's all I have today. But yeah, I had to talk some college football because there's so much going on. There's way more, but those are just a few things.
Yeah, I'm glad we mixed that in there. I've been deprived of it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Chief.
All right.
Let's see what happens here.
White clouds blowing